Hi, my name's Jane Meredith, and I'm going to be reading today from my book, Aspecting the Goddess, which has got 12 stories of different goddesses that I personally have worked with, and in fact, my own journey with those goddesses. So it's kind of got the myth woven together with my experience. And today I'm going to read the Eve story. It's also got a whole pile of processes, exercises, rituals, and work, stepping any reader through the process of aspecting in different ways. So the Eve story is towards the end of the book, and it's one of my favorites. Hope you love it too. Eve called to me out of that first story in the Old Testament in the King James Bible. I didn't know why she was calling or what she was saying. Lilith is usually considered the interesting figure, older, and with links back to the pre-Sumerian mythos. She gives birth to demons, marking her as a wise woman, shaman, and witch. Yet it's Eve who has the dialogue with the serpent, Eve who picks and eats the apple, Eve whose actions instigate that confrontation with the all-powerful Yahweh and the expulsion of humans from Eden. Eve. In ancient Hebrew, it means life. Eve is the evening. In Jewish law, also for the Celts, days do not begin with the dawn, but at the eve. They are birthed then, entering into darkness, and only halfway through does each day become bright and blessed by the sun. Eve gives birth to days and to humankind. Eve is our mother. She talked with serpents, ate apples, had sex, and gave birth, none of those actions being laid down in the book of rules. Eve broke the rules. It said, compared with Lilith, Eve was tame, but look at this list: serpent, apple, sex, birth. When the story of Eve and the serpent is chosen for CloudCatcher Reclaiming WitchCamp in our third year, I think people like the idea of the serpent, though I am listening to Eve. I still couldn't quite hear what she was saying, but it seemed important. This story is on the first pages of a book referred to as our spiritual and cultural heritage in Western traditions. If you only ever read a few pages of the Bible, this is what you would get. Eden, and Adam and Eve, the garden and the tree, the serpent and the apple, God and the angel with the flaming sword, curses and Exodus. What kind of cultural heritage is that? Unless you want to install fear and subservience, of course, then it's quite good. Was Eve bowed by the weight of that? Or was she just, in the way of a good story, moving as the narrative impelled her to, taking the steps necessary to advance the plot, expose the inconsistencies and the inevitable law of what must be? Was she and the serpent in league? Some retellings have Lilith as the serpent. It's a feminist subversion with Adam playing innocent. Someone has to be blamed. Why should it be him? But by doing that, he removes himself from the drama. Now it's all women and snakes and apples. Snakes that shed their skins and so have always symbolized rebirth and reincarnation. Apples that hold seeds inside themselves. The fruit holding the whole tree or many whole trees within itself, so that it doesn't matter if it was an apple or fig or pomegranate or apricot or persimmon. They all do that. Hold themselves within themselves, like snakes, like women giving birth to children, one and many, children out of their bellies, their wombs, who suck from their breasts and grow up to do it all over again. Birth and rebirth and reincarnation. At CloudCatcher WitchCamp, a beautiful tree has been constructed out of dead branches. It stands in the middle of a small room where our path, the morning course of study, is held. A dozen of us come here to investigate the way back to paradise. We tie apples and other fruit onto the branches and we play in the garden. We read the sentence that says, "If you eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, thou shalt be as gods." We say that line many times, repeating it, whispering it, singing it out. Thou shalt be as gods, thou shalt be as gods, thou shalt be as gods, as gods, as gods. We are naked by now. We have been gradually stripping off our clothes day by day until we're used to singing and drumming naked, having discussions naked, processing our emotions naked, writing in our journals naked. When we leave the room at break times, it seems a hassle to put on clothes, and some people don't, dashing back to their dorms or to the toilets nude. Skin has become a thing of pleasure to wear, and other people's nakedness ordinary. We have wound time back to the Garden of Eden. We wound the story back too, turning up fully clothed to the gates guarded by the angel with the flaming sword. We took turns holding the sword, and one by one felt the weariness of that angel. How long has he stood there? Some of us slid by when he turned the other way. Others shouted or negotiated or commiserated, but he did not seek to stop us. He had been standing there for maybe 4,000 years with his back turned to paradise and facing only deserts and exile, though he'd done nothing to deserve it, but been loyal throughout time. Inside the garden, we stripped down to our underwear, token fig leaves, as we stepped back further into the layers of the story and confronted the one who told us, "Thou shalt not." And we shouted and sang and danced and wept our defiance, and we said, "We shall," and we have. Look how we live, who we are. We've come to claim our inheritance. This is ours. This garden was made for us. And here we are. And some said that God welcomed them, and others that he was strangely absent, and others that he thundered and roared, but that did not sway them, and they were not bowed down. When we sang and screamed and danced ourselves through all of that, then the sound died down, and we were one step closer, back to paradise. Where was Eve in all of this? Waiting. We did not take this journey as Eve, though maybe we acknowledged ourselves as her daughters and sons. We did it in our own right, our modern, Western, personal journeys leading us right back to her. Back to that gate locked against us. Back to that garden, that tree. To Eve, the mother of people. There's something like birth in this journey, being reborn and claiming original innocence, not sin, claiming we belong to this garden, to paradise. Paradise, the walled garden, a place of cultivation where choice is intervened, and within those walls we find what is precious, nurtured, where the mind of humans or of God has separated out from the wild and built a garden where before was desert, or has built walls to shelter from the wind or contain the warmth. Paradise, a garden, a place where beauty is cultivated, food, pleasure, a place requiring gardening. It does not happen by itself. Are we offering ourselves as gardeners then by our return? When we approach the tree, we are naked, bodies young and old, human. We are becoming used to each other, so that what is remarkable now is not this nakedness, not standing naked in a circle, but the tree in the middle of the room. It's a beautiful construction, and in our eyes it leaves, it flowers, it fruits. It beckons to us from the mythic, from Eden, from one of the birthplaces of our culture. We stand in wonder before it. Caught in its branches is a mask on a stick, a half mask for the serpent. One of us steps forward and takes that mask, begins to twist it in their hands, twine it through the air, serpent-like, with a little hissing, and another of us steps forward, naked. We're all naked. And the one holding the mask hisses, whispers, "Thou shalt be as gods." And the rest of us around the edge echo, sigh, "Thou shalt be as gods." And the one of us who walks naked, drawn, curious, awake, moves closer to the serpent, who twists away to double back and utter again, "Thou shalt be as gods." Under the gaze of the serpent, she, he, they reach up, I reach up. Each of us in turn reaches up to take that offering, that dare, "Thou shalt be as gods." One by one, we pick the fruit, and yes, we bite into it. Choice this time, but surely that time, every time, all times it's choice, and offered that choice, who would refuse? Knowledge, to know, and thus to be as gods, to taste, to ingest, to allow knowledge to infuse one. What do you know? That I am flesh and fruit is flesh. That the tree offers like to like. The serpent offers what is. Each time this happens, the one holding the serpent mask sighs and places it down. And the one of us who tasted the fruit twists and picks it up and turns to look at us through the mask and whispers, "Thou shalt be as gods." Then the next one of us, naked, we're all naked, steps forward. We see the serpent seduce and tempt and dare, slither and strike, hover and weave. We see it as tempter and tempted. We hear it sing and whisper and incant and declaim again and again those words, "Thou shalt be as gods. Thou shalt be as gods." Each one of us, Eve and not Eve, each one of us in our own bodies, our skin, nothing between us and paradise, us and the serpent, us and the fruit. We step forward, we hear those serpent words of knowledge dripping into our skins, more sensual than caress, as irrefutable as poison, and yet the nectar when we bite in, and the juice runs into us down our throats, and the serpent, smiling perhaps, and laying down the mask for its next incarnation, folds away. The serpent's next incarnation is us, each time us, naked and in the garden with the taste of the fruit still in our mouths. Thou shalt be as gods. Having tasted, we call the next one in, as gods, as gods. That night in ritual with the whole camp, we go into the garden. I am aspecting Eve. I've decided I will do it naked, and I am reassured by the promise of those aspecting the serpent, 4 of them, who split apart and joined together again in sinuous and inhuman manner, that they will be naked as well. I'm not young or slender, I am middle-aged, and although I think nudity is beautiful and important and sacred, to be naked alone in a room of 50 clothed people is an uncomfortable thought. Path is smaller and we're all naked together. For Eve, I will do this and trust that when I am Eve, things will seem different. But I give Jara, who is my tender, a large shawl and say, I do not know if I will want to be naked for the whole ritual. He carries it with him over his shoulder. I asked if he would paint my skin beforehand, and we retreated to my room after dinner. I asked for flowers and vines scattered over my shoulder and cascading down my back and over my breast and stomach on the left side. I have an eye mask to wear. It's green and gold and looks a bit like a garden, a flower, a butterfly. When I take off my clothes, we begin singing, a kind of muttered chanting half under our breaths, partly to each other, but more to Eve. We start with a chant from the camp, but quickly it changes and turns until we are tying words together, hearing them and sending them back and forth between us. And I stand there while he paints me with flowers and vines, and I feel I am changing. Something is coming through me, coming into me, like sap or maybe pollen, walking in the sunlight that is the attention of these 2 people, myself and Jara, this young man named for a tree. In this, we are both tenders for Eve, although I allow my consciousness to loosen a little, to float on the painting, on the chanting, on the skin and cold air, and he keeps his pinned to the moment, to the paintbrush and skin and colour. And I feel him drawing a circle around me with his concentration and intent and chanting, while I stand in the centre and deepen, drop, open, awaken, and it feels like the threads of Eve are gathered to me through the vining, through the chant and paint and flowering and the spiraling focus of 2 minds, 2 bodies in service to this. I have a satin slip, a dull mauve colour. I can slide it off my shoulders so it slithers to the floor. We go down to the ritual and already I feel half altered inside a space more real than this night of cold grass and stars, of people gathering, and then of drums and the inside space. I go to Eve's altar and stay there, like a small home place among those gathering. I am human too, but I feel anchored to something larger, something older, to the garden, or the roots of the tree maybe. I've said I will go into aspect 60%, and already before we've begun, I feel I am in 40%. I listen to all the early grounding, casting, and invocations, suspended in a waiting that is just one breath to the next. No impatience or anxiety or anticipation, just presence. When it is our turn to invoke Eve and call her into aspect, the thread that Jarrah and I spun earlier holds us together without words, and we walk into the center of the circle. I turn to face him and he calls, not to me, but through me, to Eve. And holding his eyes, only his eyes, I pull first one shoulder strap and then the other over my shoulders, so that my slip falls down to the ground and I come another degree of alive. Jarrah leads me back into the circle, but by now I am shimmering on the inside. Although I know I am naked, it seems irrelevant. When we are released from this standing in one place, I dart, I weave among the people. I'm fascinated by them, especially the women, and I rush up to them and reach out my hands, my gaze, my longing, and they reach out to me, to Eve. They weep. Some of them take their tops off to bare their breasts, more than I expected. We laugh together. Something is happening in the ritual, and I don't really know what. I don't really care. All of me is bound here in skin and body, and the room is somehow mine or hers. This is her moment to come through, and she does. There's a stir, a disturbance, and a twisting shape comes through the door, the serpent. I look up and see them, four joined into one, and I see they are not naked. They wear loincloths, and my attention wavers, breaks for a moment. They said they would be naked too. Shock. Enough to break through my daze of Eve and register surprise, distaste. They could have told me, at least. There's a flavour of deceit. I thought we had an agreement, but no, they are playing their own game. And so I feel divided from them. It speaks to me more clearly than anything else could that the serpent is not on Eve's side. The serpent moves with its own concerns. The ritual calls for Eve to be intrigued by the serpent, so I play with that, but really I'm cross and not drawn towards them. I linger at the edges as they split into four and begin their tempting like spruikers at a fair, tricksters and magicians and ringmasters, calling their wares while brandishing a whip, summoning equal parts, temptation and awe. Then we are allowed out of this room and into the night, and I run for the doors. It does cross my mind that it will be cold out there, that I will be cold, but Eve is not interested in that. She is through the door, and I do love the freedom of it, listening to that call and just responding. They stream after me, the people, clothed and unclothed and partly clothed, and I do not stop to put on my shoes, which is not like me at night in the dark and cold, but is exactly like Eve. Perhaps she does not even know what shoes are. Outside, as soon as my feet finish with the brick paving and arrive at the grass, it's bliss. I'm not interested in the people out here, though inside I liked interacting with them. Here I am more intent on just being. I'm a mixture of laughing and crying. I still think I'm only 60% Eve, but the rest of me feels no need to halt or redirect her, and I've let go of my hesitations. She wants to lie down and roll on the wet grass. I let her. She wants to be on her hands and knees, digging her fingers through the grass and into the earth. Why not? Jarrah is suddenly there in front of me. I'm sure he's been there all along, but in this moment he looks fascinating to me, that tug of concern around his eyes, that attention he's giving me. I laugh and smile to show that everything is all right, and he lets me smear some of the dark, wet earth onto his skin. I've forgotten that he painted these flowers on me earlier. By now they're a part of me. But perhaps it's a return gift, the soil, the mark of this land. We seem confined to this small slope of lawn with buildings on three sides. I'm not sure why, because the dark stretch of downhill ahead of me is beckoning. When I look up and around and see the sweep of hills so close, I can easily imagine running up there to be a part of the night in the forest. But somehow when I get near the edges of the space the other people are in, I get turned back. It's not serious enough an impediment for me to want to break it, though the clouded night seems to me ideal for exploration, for discovery and adventure. Sometimes, in flickers, it crosses my mind that I was supposed to be doing something in particular at this part of the ritual. But when I search my mind, I can't remember anything. Perhaps I even asked Jared, do I have to do anything? And it seems not. It seems Eve can just be here in the garden at night. I gaze at the sky, away from the close hills backing us, in the east and north and behind, and between the clouds I see a glimmer. Of course, it's Easter, which means there's a full moon. It would have risen by now, and it's out there somewhere, since I'm facing east. I feel a tremor go through me, a shiver not of cold, but something else. Magic. Power. I can feel the moon there, and when I stretch out my arm, it feels like threads connect my fingertips to the rays of it, the moon rays blocked by cloud, and I start to sing. It's not the quiet, muttered singing we did earlier, invoking Eve while painting flowers and vines. This is loud, a love song. And I'm not afraid, and I don't bother to be quiet, though I don't think anyone else notices particularly. By now, all the people are engaged in their own journeys in the garden. I sing a song to the moon, and I feel it vibrating through my body, and it's as if I can pull the moon to me. I believe I can. I feel myself doing it, or I feel Eve doing it. Because if it were just me, I might sit on the slope and wait for it, trusting it will emerge at some stage, or I might sing quietly under my breath just to keep myself company. But I would not sing like this, commandingly, and also with longing, enticing, drawing the moon out, which is what Eve does. The clouds are thinning, the shimmer grows, and almost I'm laughing with the joy of it. The body of the moon, I can feel it searching me out. I can feel how it belongs with me, or I belong with it. And I move my hands, my arms, the threads between us impatiently, and I watch it reveal itself. Eve called the moon out. The clouds ribbon apart, and there it is. And she calls out in triumph and love. And I think she calls the moon, the moon. And some people turn to look, but by now some are headed back inside. And anyway, no one knows it was me. It was her who pulled it out from behind those clouds, except Jarrah, he knows. I can feel it in him, the knowledge of what he saw. And I stand there in the full moonlight. Eve stands there, and I'm so glad for her that she got to do this and feel her own power, her connection to all this growing of trees and grass and earth in the night. And now we've let her have this radiance of moonlight called forth. Jarrah suggests we should go back inside. That is clearly ridiculous. Neither Eve nor I have any patience with that idea. Now that we're outside, why wouldn't we stay here forever? I point that out, and I hear him negotiating with someone for a bit more time. More people are leaving to return inside, but I don't mind if I'm the only one left here. The moon is still out, the moon that I called. Why would I leave now? It came to my call. I can't understand why anyone would choose to go inside, but I don't try to understand it. He waits with me patiently. At some times through the last half hour, he has offered me the shawl he still carries, but I don't want that. I'm not cold. In the Eve persona, I have forgotten that originally I thought I might not be comfortable being naked for so long. Eve hasn't noticed since she got outside that she wasn't clothed or had any desire to put anything around her. I thought, a 40% part of me, that Eve would be more interested in these people, and at the beginning, she was. But out here, the air and grass and earth, the trees and hills and moon have claimed her. She doesn't want to go back. Eventually, nearly everyone else has gone. Jared takes my arm and says, "It's time." And he has a different tone in his voice. Maybe he's sad. I don't feel sad, more uncomprehending. To please him, really, I begin to take a few steps towards the building, which is still a little way off. He's talking to me, although I'm not listening. I'm more having a private conversation with the moon. Then my attention is drawn away. I look down at the ground where I'm treading, or towards the lighted building, and in that flicker, a cloud starts to come back, and I stop, still. I could call out the moon again. I know I could, and it seems such a waste to leave it, to leave this game, this serenade of the moon, and I'm beginning to have a more sinister feeling about inside that I really don't want to go there, that Eve does not want to go there. We do go inside. I let him lead me away from the moon and the grass. Through the doors, we're in the ritual again. Oh, the ritual. I'd more or less forgotten that. I can feel it's drawing to a conclusion, and I know Eve is the conclusion. Why else have all these people gathered together to remember me and play with me, even if only for an hour or so, in a garden of our making? There's a basket of apples in the middle of the room. I know it belongs to me. I walk over to it and stand there quietly. Some other part of the ritual's happening with people's attention elsewhere, but I know I will be able to gather them when I have to. This is the piece I had to remember. I had to discover. This is the piece I've been heading towards all this time, not just the time of this ritual, since the time of the invocation of flowers and vines in the cold bedroom, but since I asked to take this role back in the planning, since we chose Eve as a story 8 months ago, since Eve called out to me from those pages of the King James Bible. All those whispers I've been half hearing all this time, now is the time for them to come together, to come into words, to be spoken. Now is the time for her to speak. I would still say I'm 40% here, that I've not forgotten what has to happen, that I have no hesitation in playing my role in the ritual, but something else has occurred in the time outside. Eve and I have lost our edges. I don't switch back and forwards between aspecting her and thinking about my own thoughts. I don't need to shut myself off, even temporarily, to carry her. I'm holding both streams at once. I feel her and I know myself, and a little of her warmth is lost in that, knowing what will come, but none of my purpose. I crouch down over the apples, gathering strength, gathering voice. I feel my feet planted on the floor. I'm aware of my nakedness, but it has long since ceased to feel strange. By now, it's just the way I am. I take deeper and deeper breaths so that when it's time to call out, my voice will carry through the room. Oh, it's obvious now. Maybe it always was obvious. I felt it, half glimpsed it, saw it in the threads of story, asked for it in the image that was made for this camp. Eve and the tree twined together. The tree is grown in paradise as Eve is grown in paradise. It's the tree of knowledge, just as a woman's body holds that knowledge. The sexual revelations of body, of fertility, of ecstasy. The tree gives forth flower and fruit as Eve is flower and gives forth fruit of her womb. And these ones gathered here, they are all from that story, from that womb. They're all born from that. I take a deep breath, pick up an apple and hold it up. I stand and speak. This is what Eve says. Here is the apple. It's from me, from my body. Perhaps really it's a pomegranate, apricot, persimmon, date, or other fruit, it doesn't matter. Fruit, flesh, and seeds. This is me. You were born from these apples, from these seeds, from the tree of me. I am the mother of every one of you, and only because I tasted and ate the fruit of the tree of knowledge was I able to give birth to you. You are born from me, from the fruit, from the tree. I am the tree. This woman's body is the tree of knowledge and the tree of life. And eating it, we know what it is to live and to die. We know who we are. I'm not separate from the tree. I am the tree. When you eat of the tree, I am offering you life, my life. And you also will be part of the tree. The one who offers the fruit is the tree that grew it. I offer the fruit. I am the tree. I am a woman. I am Eve. I am the tree. We are not separate. Then there are apples being offered from baskets, apples being eaten all around the room, and I stand in the center alone, and I feel like weeping. In the midst of people milling, one man comes over to me and goes down on his knees to offer obeisance to Eve, to the mother. He saw her, heard her. It touches me, but I know what's coming, so I feel a little sad and cold, and as the circle reforms and Jara comes up to me in the center, I try to tell him she doesn't want to go. And his eyes look sad as well, but there isn't any choice. And I feel her desperation. No, I was made to be in a body. That's what I am. Who I am, you can't take it away from me. No. Others are fine in disembodied form, but I'm the earth and body and flesh, and I do not want to go into formlessness and words on a page. I am not an idea. I am body. And then he says the ritual words, thanking and releasing Eve. But I don't want to be released. This is not release. It is extinguishment. It is nothing. I am not that. I am this. Let me stay. Let me stay. And everyone around the circle echoes him, thanking her. I don't want to be thanked. I don't want to be gone, not into bodilessness, not gone from the earth and the night and the body. And he does something. I don't know what. And she's gone. Torn out of me, away from me. And I'm left holding her anguish. But here I am, and I grab at the shawl still over his shoulder. I can't stand to be naked in this circle of people. I feel horrible, awful, sick, shaking. And we walk to the edge of the circle, and I go through it and beyond, down behind Eve's altar. And I huddle there on the floor and weep and weep. The ritual finishes, and I see people beginning to leave the room. Some look, but none come up to me as I huddle on the floor, half naked and weeping, except Jara. I see people glance my way and then leave the room, and I cry harder. How unfair to offer Eve a body just for a few hours when she was all body. That was who she was. And then take it away. She did not want to go. She was desperate. Her children doing this to her, dismissing her, sending her out into the long darkness. And I ask for my friend, and Jara brings them. And they squat beside me and hug me and help me to dress and are calm and sensible, and I forgive them somewhat. But I don't forget her. I don't forget Eve, the spirit of the tree of nourishment, of body, of fertility and life that is knowledge. I don't forget her. And now that I know what she was always saying to me, she is the tree. The apples are her flesh. They give knowledge of her, and to eat them is to choose the life of the body, which is sex and flesh, alive and divine. That is the Eve story out of Aspecting the Goddess. There are 11 other stories of different goddesses in here, goddesses twined with my own story, including Aphrodite, Inanna, Freya, Isis, and a whole heap more, as well as many kind of stepped, graduated processes, practices, exercises into the art of aspecting. I hope you liked it. Thanks so much.